JP, a chef instructor here with the Aqua Blue Flame Kitchen. I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about pumpkins. It's coming to the fall, it's pumpkin season. You might see lots of pumpkins and squashes and gourds and different things in the grocery store everywhere. We get lots of questions at the Blue Flame Kitchen about what we should do with them, how do we use them, what to do. So I'm going to kind of do a brief overview about a couple of different kinds of pumpkins you might see. And if you want to roast your own pumpkin to make pumpkin pie or soup, we'll talk a little bit about that. So first of all, there's generally two kinds of pumpkins you'll find in the store. This would be a jack-o'-lantern or a carving style pumpkin, and this is called a sugar pumpkin or a sugar pie pumpkin. Generally, this one is used for cooking, and this one's used for carving. There's lots of these, they're inexpensive. You can use them for cooking, but I'll show you why they're not the best shortly. So two different pumpkins, they are a hard squash, there's a little bit of a shell. They're not quite as hard as a spaghetti squash or something that we've grown in our garden. So the first thing you want to do is cut it to be able to get to the inside. So with a nice sharp knife and a good strong hold onto it, you want to take an end off. I like to take the stem end off because the stem is sometimes awkward. These don't compost well, but if you have a long time, you can, or city composting works well. And then I like to set it on the flat side, straight down, so it's nice and stable. And again, big knife, slice it through, and once you have it through the pumpkin, safely putting it down, or you can grab a rag and fold that over the end of your knife for extra safety, and just cut it straight down and through. So you'll see on the inside of this pumpkin, the sugar pie pumpkin, it's very dense. It's super, super fragrant. And then on the inside here is all the seeds, which we like to cook as well, or you can save them and use them for planting next year. So that's the inside of this one. I've already cut the carving pumpkin, and this isn't the best example. Sometimes this is a lot darker orange in the sugar pie pumpkin. This pumpkin is a lot more stringy, and it doesn't have the same sort of flavor intensity that a sugar pie pumpkin does. Not as much sweetness, just not as a good a product. It will work if you're in a pinch. They are very inexpensive this time of year, and you can roast them. So what you want to do is scrape out the seeds, whether it's the big one, you give it a good scrape with a spoon, get all the stringy bits and seeds out. You can soak those in a bowl of water, clean them off. Once they're cleaned off, I like to lay them on a sheet pan and just dry them out a little bit. And then we toss them with oil and a little bit of seasoning, whatever you like. Roast them for about 10 minutes in the oven, a delicious snack or crunch to your salads. So after everything's scooped out, you get a nice clean interior. I'll show you with this one. And then you can roast these. So I've roasted two different ones. And don't be shy to take off a little bit extra. This would be the same process you do if you were going to carve a jack-o'-lantern. One of the other jack-o'-lantern questions we always get at Thanksgiving is, if I've carved my pumpkin for a jack-o'-lantern, can I still roast it and cook it to eat later? And the answer to that is no. If it's been outside after it's been cut, it's not always great to try to roast that and cook it. You can compost it. If you let it freeze once outside before you throw it in your compost, that really helps break it down. So we have a clean pumpkin here. This you can just flip right over and put on a baking sheet to be able to roast. The sugar pumpkin, same thing. This one you can see it's a lot more dense on the inside. It's less stringy. And again, just give it a good scrape with a strong spoon. Or if you have little people, they can use their hands to dig this out. It's a textural either delight or nightmare. So give that a good scrape. There we go. And then when you're roasting, you can either rub them with a little bit of oil and seasoning, salt and pepper, or just put them right in the oven, just like that. Do a quick cleanup here. So that's one way to roast. They take about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour in an oven at 350 degrees. Once they come out of the oven, here's a sugar pie pumpkin I roasted earlier. They should be soft to the touch. So you can push it and you can see it, there's a lot of give to that. That's what we're looking for. And I'll flip this over. So you flip it over and you can see it's nice and soft. Just like an acorn squash, very similar color. It's really aromatic. You can smell all that delicious flavor. Like an acorn squash I was saying, or a spaghetti squash. You just want to pull this and it's nice and soft. It's not quite as stringy as a spaghetti squash, and it mashes really nicely. So if you were going to make muffins or soup, I would just pull this out and sort of mash it in a bowl. The other thing that you can do if you want to make this for pie is scrape this out and then put it into a food processor. So food processor here. Pull it over. So just a regular food processor. You can scoop this out. You want to try to get as much as you can. The skin is quite strong, so you don't want to add the skin. You can just scrape up against it and get as much out as you can. Give it it a good scrape. If it's a little too hot, you can let it sit. But this scrapes goes in, and then this is just gonna puree. You can see, if I give this a press, it already makes a paste. It's not really held together. But by pureeing it, you're just gonna make it one uniform smoothness. So same with this side, this one can go in. And then this for pumpkin pie, which would be the most likely thing that you'd use it for at this time of year. You wanna spin this up and get that puree. And then when you're making pumpkin pie, if you're making pumpkin pie at home from scratch, there's generally two kinds of pumpkin you can buy in the store. And we are using just regular pumpkin because we roast it. Generally, if you buy pumpkin filling at the store, it comes in two varieties. There's pumpkin pie filling, which has been seasoned already. There's some nutmeg and cinnamon, sometimes some condensed milk, so it's ready to go. You normally have to add eggs and pour that into your pie shell. For something like this, where it's just the pureed pumpkin, you would have to season it. So all of those sort of fall pumpkin spice flavors, cinnamon, nutmeg, delicious, delicious things. Sugar, condensed milk, an egg or a royale, maybe some whipping cream, and pour that in. And yeah, so to blend this up, we'll just put this on, give it a little spin. And it doesn't take very long at all, and in just that amount of time, we have a very nice and smooth pumpkin filling. In soup, this with a little bit of onions and carrots, this is a great fall soup, really delicious. And squash this time of year, if you've either grown it in your backyard like we've done with these ones, or you buy them at the store, they stand up really well, they make delicious soups, buy them when they're inexpensive, start cooking and fill your freezer of delicious, hearty soups for the winter. For this and so many more information and tips and classes, check out aquablueflamekitchen.com.